News at 5.
Good evening and welcome to the MTN News at 5 on KTGF. I'm Tom Wiley, broadcasting from Bozeman for night number 2 of the MSU Spring Rodeo. You can catch the broadcast at 7 o'clock on your MTN station. But first tonight, the National Guard held its Best Warrior competition this week, where soldiers go against one another to test their physical and mental capacity. Anyone in the National Guard can compete, and they come to Fort Harrison from across Montana. MTN's Ali Kaiser attended the awards ceremony today to speak with winners and National Guard leaders about what this honor means.
If you think the National Guard does not test its soldiers' strength enough, they hold a competition to see who is the best warrior.
This highlights what we have to go through to really basically defend and deter those peers out there to know that we're there, and it shows the skills that we have to give them the confidence so they can just go normally in their daily life.
15 National Guard members competed this year in over 25 events, which tested their physical and mental strength. Some of these events included inventory checks, target shooting, correctly using equipment like radios, and written tests. 22-year-old Quentin Spring from Great Falls has been a firefighter in the Air National Guard for 3 years and can now also claim the title of Best Warrior.
It was a surprise, but I'm very humbled and honored, so it was pretty awesome. I don't get to do a lot of this stuff on the air side, so it was a lot of trying to figure everything out as I went.
Spring had to navigate some events that he was not exactly familiar with as a National Guard airman. He said he does not do land navigation or use some of the weapons that the Army National Guard does.
At least for me, I need to put myself in situations like this where I'm uncomfortable to grow as a person and as an airman and everything. So put yourself in those situations and just do it.
Hunter Grunherd is a 28-year-old police officer from Livingston. He joined the Army National Guard 4 years ago and won Best Warrior Non-Commissioned Officer.
It's a lot of stress. It's been a long week, not a lot of sleep, so you're kind of going event to event. You don't know what's coming up.
Both Spring and Grunherd say they found the Norwegian Ruck March to be most challenging. It started around midnight and competitors marched 18.6 miles while loaded down with equipment.
At mile 15, you start to go to a dark place, so you got to learn about yourself and push yourself a little bit. So.
Spring will not be able to compete in the regional Best Warrior competition because it is only for Army National Guard members. Instead, he earned a free Army course. Grunherd will be competing in regionals next month in Washington State.
I'm excited to see how I stand up to some of the other states in our region.
In Helena, Ali Kaiser, MTN News.
The 120th Airlift Wing in Great Falls will be among the first Air National Guard bases to receive the new C-130J aircraft. Governor Greg Gianforte announced that the Air Force had selected the Great Falls base to receive the aircraft Thursday. The C-130J is a Super Hercules aircraft that has increased cargo capacity, more efficient engines, and improved performance. The Montana Air National Guard will receive 8 new aircraft and one-to-one replacement for their current C-130H planes. Bases in Connecticut, Minnesota, and Illinois are also expected to receive the C-130. The planes are expected to be delivered to Montana in 2026. Beautiful weekend before it starts to cool down. Time now for a check of our forecast with meteorologist Curtis Grevenitz.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. What a beautiful day out there. Mostly sunny skies. You can see the Highwood Mountains there. A couple of clouds, a little ominous cloud looking right there. Well, we've got a couple of thunderstorms, showers, storms popping off of the little belts and then also out around the big snowy south of Lewistown. Warmest day yet. All right, we tied thus far the warmest day yet in Great Falls at 73, but Bozeman, Lewistown, 75 degrees, Wolf Point 77, Helena 77, and look at Forsyth, 80 degrees out there today. Mentioned a couple of those clouds. Look at that little lightning strike just east of the big snowies and a couple of showers over the east end of the Little Belt Mountains. We'll take a closer look at that coming up. Who else just wants to lay out in the grass? Well, if you were working most of the day today, you've got tomorrow. You've got Sunday, which will be very similar to today. Beautiful weather. It's a warm weekend. Storm weekend, question mark. There'll be a couple out there. And not this weekend. Next week, we'll talk snow. Coming up.
The complete renovation of an iconic Choteau bar is nearing completion. The new location is set to open in May. MTN's Owen Skornick Hayes has the details.
Well, decades of rich history really make the Wagon Wheel Bar a staple of Choteau that it is. But despite several business ventures and the changing of locations, the Wagon Wheel Bar and now Grill is ready for its newest business venture. It all began just a few years ago when Janice and Cecil Goodman purchased the old Wagon Wheel Bar, which had been out of commission. It's taken on a few faces, beginning as a schoolhouse before taking on its first iteration as a dive bar in 1941. Though the new site will be more upscale, it will harbor much of the traditional flair. Just ask Chuck Gaiman of Game On Repurposing.
Janice and I kind of have a shared love for history and salvage and old wood. What I feel like she is going for and what I kind of like to myself is kind of that rustic look.
Just take a look inside the soon-to-open restaurant. You can find elements of Choteau's history everywhere you look. The tables are made from an old bowling alley, its legs from an old schoolhouse. Even the light fixtures were once used for turkey feeding. But perhaps coolest of all will be the old branding wall made from wood from the original Wagon Wheel, an homage to the past.
What we're going to do is invite local ranchers, bring their brand in. I already have the invitation ready that their brand will be their ticket in. So we're going to decorate that wall with our local brands, which we just feel is so special, you know, not only for the community, but just the fact that we can tie it into 1941, that was something they did.
Ownership has even obtained the original invitation to brand the premises from the 1941 Wagon Wheel. Of course, this version will still be more upscale with fancy liquors, fresh grilled options featuring local beef, and all backed by two chefs with 30 years of experience between them.
Some people are joking that they're going to have a hard time adjusting to, yes, the upscale Wagon Wheel as it's going to be seen, but people are very appreciative of it.
Manager Heidi Snyder has some unique ideas to keep things fresh.
I have quite a few things up my sleeve for surprises, which I think is really fun, keep people anticipated. I will have some entertainment that I'll be able to announce that will be pretty unique for Choteau and actually the state of Montana, so I'm excited about that.
And though Chuck wasn't as familiar with the old Wagon Wheel, despite living in Choteau for 24 years, he's excited to have been a part of its rebirth.
It was way beyond what I anticipated doing when I signed up to help out down here with finish work. It's really evolved in the 6-8 months that I've been working down here. So to see the end final product is going to be pretty cool to see.
An opening has yet to be announced, but manager Heidi says it should be within the next month. From Choteau, Owen Skornick-Hayes, MTN News.
A national study by leading experts shows that in 2017, there were nearly 1 million adults in the U.S. living with multiple sclerosis. While every case is different, many people impacted can live productive lives. MTN's Tim McGonigal talked with a woman diagnosed nearly a decade ago who has become a leading advocate for awareness.
For most of us, walking is something that we take for granted, but for someone living with multiple sclerosis, it's a simple act that can be painful. Walk MS events are one way in which advocates, including one Montana woman, are raising awareness.
I'm going to talk to you a little bit about what MS is.
At first glance, you wouldn't know Dawn Sexton has multiple sclerosis.
I still snowboard, I still paddleboard, golf, all the things, and I am still working full time.
The Touro College Clinical Education Director and MS advocate first noticed her symptoms in 2015.
And I actually lost mobility in my whole upper half, so my arms, my hands, I couldn't feel my torso.
She said she couldn't think clearly, and it took about 9 months to finally get diagnosed.
Because it is such a tricky disease to kind of pinpoint, if you will.
MS occurs when the nervous system attacks the immune system.
Think of a wire with that plastic coating on your, and that's like your nerves, right? Okay. That coating is what we call myelin, and think of that getting stripped on that wire.
There was no history in Dawn's family of what is commonly referred to as a snowflake disease.
You know, no two cases are really alike. We all have different symptoms.
More severe cases can lead to blindness and paralysis. The most common symptoms are fatigue, numbness, and vision issues. Most people are diagnosed between the ages of 20 and 50. It's more likely to happen in women, and it's more prevalent in northern regions. Dawn's advocacy began as a volunteer in Washington State. Her passion for helping others continued after moving to Montana, and the MS Society took notice.
I actually interviewed. They flew me out to D.C. like a month later, and I now am the district activist leader for for the state of Montana.
Through yearly trips to Washington, D.C., she updates lawmakers and fights for funding, efforts that have recently paid off in the form of more money from the Department of Defense-funded MS Research Project.
So $20 million, it's the only federal stream of funding for MS research.
And she continues to be a voice at home, recently raising awareness at a Touro College Health Fair and promoting an upcoming Walk MS event at West Bank Park in Great Falls on May 11th.
It will be our second one since before the pandemic, and it is volunteer ran, but we have a great turnout, and the MS Society will actually be there this year, which I think will make it a lot of fun too.
There's no cure for MS, but Dawn is optimistic one day there will be. Until then, she'll be on the front lines, fighting to make a difference.
You get a free pair of sunglasses. Okay.
In Great Falls, Tim McGonigal, MTN News.